Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming today. This is the November edition of the President's Open Forum, and the session today is really going to be focused on the latest developments on several topics, one of which is the development and replanning of the North County facilities plan. Also, we'll be looking at our latest information on our accreditation visit, as well as the preparation for our comprehensive visit. We'll also be looking at where the Board of Trustees is in relationship to other facilities planning, as well as considering the feasibility of a bond issue for November of 2014. After my presentation, the Dean of Student Services, Noemi Ornelas, will be here to talk about the new program that's being implemented called Academic Works and help us with the awarding of scholarships. So let's talk about North County facilities. The North County campus opened up in 1998 with a series of modular buildings that we received from Vandenberg Air Force Base as surplus for no money. It was a great gift, about $2 million worth of buildings. We had to pay for moving the buildings from Lompoc to the North County, and then, which was about $175,000. And then our foundation led a very successful capital campaign, which raised about $4 million in order to refurbish the buildings and get them ready for a campus. The original site plan was developed in 1999, and the concept at the time for our campus was to fit in with rural North County, kind of the rancho style buildings. Instead of the red tile roofs, we're looking at still a reddish or brick colored roofing. Now they're metal roofs, but to kind of assimilate that kind of rural type of architecture. The original site plan included a couple of features. The large rectangle you see here, that was the 84 acres that we purchased from a private owner. This is Buena Vista Drive, which meets down on Highway 46. So this is the 84-acre parcel that we purchased with the help of Senator Jack O'Connell, who at the time was able to work with the state legislature to secure some funding so we could buy the property from the Dallins family, who had purchased it for us and held us until we had money available to make our own purchase. So that was the initial plan. This additional trapezoidal shape up here is another 22 acres that was gifted to the college by the Kiesig family. The Kiesig family was originally the owners of the Gardens at Avila and Sycamore Springs. They also had a development of property located up beyond this property that they were developing into a spa and eventually a hotel. So they had some interest in us developing this property that would lend itself more towards a business conference center type of area. So originally in the plan, that's what the use of that site was, to offer business education, but also having facilities that could support conferencing. There was also even a paleontology museum that was proposed at one time for that site. After that kind of dissipated, they had a strong interest in the Trades and Technology program, and so the next iteration was that the Trades and Technology building would be located on that particular property. Well, as time went on, and as we started getting funding for buildings, we got funding for our first two buildings, the Science, Math, and Allied Health building, and then the Learning Resource building. The next on the docket was the Science, or it was the Trades and Technology building. But just think of it for a minute. If we had two buildings which are currently in operation right here, and the next building to be built was over here, it didn't make a whole lot of sense. First of all, we'd have to make special provisions for crossing Buena Vista, plus the distance that students would have to travel back and forth to get basic services didn't really make a lot of sense at all. So that idea in the last year and a half has been scrapped. We've met with the Kisig heir, and they're fine. They deeded the property to us with the intent that we could do whatever we felt was in the best interest of the college. So that 22-acre parcel of land now becomes a hugely important asset for the college. Because we could sell it, we could lease it, we could build on it. There's lots of options that we have now for the eventual development of that property or the dispensation of that property. But we're now going to focus our attention on the 84 acres. So in the last couple of months, we've been working on an update of facilities planning for the North County campus. And 2 months ago, we awarded a contract to PMSM architects who were charged with coming up with a new design or an expanded design of this particular property. In September, we had an open forum with two groups. One, our internal employees and students at the North County campus to get their ideas about what was working in terms of the layout of the existing two new buildings, what features felt good, what improvements could be made. And then following that, there was an open forum for community people to come in and basically talk about what the needs of the community were and what they saw were advantages. And so the architects went back and they came back with some themes. And what they heard from both groups was keeping the campus core, having a core of buildings clustered in such a way that it created an atmosphere of inclusion rather than exclusion. So that concept of building the Trades and Technology building over in that 22 acres was just not consistent with that particular wish. There was also a need to have a very clear definition of where the entrance to the campus is. Currently, if you come up Buena Vista, you reach a transition point, and you don't know whether to drive around here to access the Learning Resource Building, or since there's a sign here that says Cuesta College, whether you come up here, enter the parking lot to where the modular buildings are in this location. So, and there's no prominent building that captures your eye that says that must be the front door of the campus. So that was a concern, having a well-defined campus entrance. Also keeping in mind about how vehicular circulation was going to be handled. Would we have a perimeter way to access the college from exterior points inward, or how would that traffic flow work? And even in this design, you see that there was designed a exterior roadway that you could get anywhere around the campus. So keep that in mind. The other was to make sure it's pedestrian friendly. Well, if you look at the original design, you're not supposed to see that yet. Okay. If you look at the original design, whoops, I keep hitting the wrong arrow. All right. This site right here was the proposed plan for the Children's Center. That's in the master plan. This is Buena Vista. This is a major road, Dallins Drive, and it would be clustered in this spot. Also over here, there was a project planned with the city of Paso Robles to put in an aquatic center on the opposite side of it. Neither one of those fit the model of being pedestrian friendly. If we're moving children back and forth across, or staff or students coming back and forth, they have to cross streets. And the last one was to make sure we have courtyards and open spaces for gathering, for students to have events or activities involved. So those were some of the very consistent ideas or concerns that were being expressed by people who came forward, whether it be staff or whether they be public. So at the board meeting on November 6th, the architects came with their their draft design of what that campus could look like, keeping in mind these particular themes. Also, this is a result of several other meetings that have been going on with campus stakeholders in terms of reviewing several drafts and picking and choosing from those drafts to kind of amalgamate them into one common theme. So this is where we are today. This is the 84 acre, actually there's about 50 of the 80, about 55 of the 84 acres. Let me get back. Yeah. Over on this side, this still extends out here. There's about 25 acres of our property that are still in that far east side of the 84 acre parcel. But as you look here, this is the existing science, math, technology. This is the Fox building. That's a permanent structure. This is the Schwartz building, which is the Library Learning Resource Center. Our current modular buildings are located in this particular proximity. So this design calls for 4 additional buildings. The front door of the campus, which would be the campus center. This would be housing administration, student services, food services, probably a culinary kitchen so we could offer a culinary program. But this is be the hub of what is currently being occupied primarily in the modular buildings and some of the services upstairs in the Schwartz building at this time. But that would be the campus center. So when you got to this point, you would have 2 ways to get to that campus center. You have this side of the U and you'd have this side of the U, all leading into a central parking lot which support the activities in this building. The second needed building is a multi-use instructional building. This would be a very large structure, about 66,000 square feet. Our current library, the Schwartz building, is about 40,000. So it's about 1.5 times bigger than the Schwartz building is now. But that would be a general classroom building to support all of the non-specialized classrooms, because our science labs are already accommodated. The third building would be trades and technology. And it would be located on this perimeter here, access to roadway for delivery of equipment and supplies for parking different varieties of vehicles. And then the important building would be the Child's Center, which would be right adjacent to the Schwartz building. And notice where it's located. It also has easy access for drop-off and pickup. And it also has easy access to the rest of the campus. So as students are either taking children to various parts of the campus, or students are trying to get to their lab, their child development lab work, has close proximity to it. The interior part of the campus would be designed, with a variety of meeting places, seating arrangements, shade, whether it be trees or whether it be canopy-type structures that create shade for that tough time of the, late spring and early fall on our campus, and obviously during the summer. So where this is going now is tonight, or late this afternoon, from 4 to 6, there will be another open forum at the North County campus in the cafeteria for anybody to come in and view it, give comments, give its blessing, create another idea as to this design. And then it's going to come back to the Board of Trustees on December 4th for final approval by the board as to be the direction that we would want to be moving. One other feature that I wanted to mention here was, what about expansion? In the original plan that you saw, everything was tightly knit in kind of an oval-shaped mall type of structure. But if you wanted to add any buildings in the future, you had to go outside of that already defined framework, and suddenly you start having something behind something else. Well, the architects planned for that in this case. So if you notice on the far right, there's a intentional gap between buildings here. Because remember, we've got another 20 to 30 acres of property on this side. So the idea here is if we have to expand, we would expand out to the east, which would create, we've got kind of a common core here, but then you could also create a common core going horizontally or diagonally across the campus. So there's kind of two designs in terms of the layout that we would eventually see of the North County campus. So that's where we are. 4 new buildings. We could start building tomorrow if we had a couple sizable bond issue successes, But this is the direction we're going, keeping the campus within the confines of Dallins Drive, Buena Vista, and the 2 north and east boundaries. We still own property the south of Dallins Drive, which is our green space, our buffer space, and we have control over what exists there. If you notice, if you've been to the North County, there's a large hotel being built across the street, just beyond our property, with vineyards on the hill. That's an Ayers Hotel, and then behind it on 46 in Buena Vista is the existing La Quinta. So there could be 2 large hotels adjacent to our campus, which creates some interesting potential down the road in terms of us being somewhat of a conference center also during our downtime and use of our facilities. So, all right. So moving on. This last week was a really important week for this college because on November 5th we had a visiting team of 2 people here to meet with us and to validate our follow-up report. I'll have to say, and for those of you who have talked to anybody who was interviewed, this was a very exciting day. It was one of the first visits where we were almost embarrassed by the wonderful accolades that were being given to our employees and their effort in terms of bringing this institution back from non-compliance into full compliance. I haven't seen the draft report yet. That will come probably next week sometime. I will be given that, it'll be sent to me for me to review for factual check only. If there's any errors in fact, then I have an opportunity to correct those. The commission staff is also looking at it for any obvious technical errors in terms of what's to be included in a follow-up report. Then I should receive a final draft or a final copy of the report that is actually submitted to the commission probably the first week of December. I'm not at liberty to share that document in terms of the specifics, but I can share the general nature and the tone of it. My expectation is that the tone will be very positive, because I know the work that all of you have done in terms of meeting those last 2 hurdles, the recommendation 2 and recommendation or eligibility requirement 19. Then from there, the commission will meet on January 8th, 9th, and 10th. The site hasn't been determined yet. They do the hearings on the 9th and the 10th, which means they invite college representatives to come and speak before the commission on their particular case. We will send a team there on the 9th or 10th, depending upon where scheduled. Myself, Vice President Wolf, and probably Pat Mullen, our board president, will probably attend. Even if he's not reelected as the board president in December, my guess is the board will want him to go since he was the most intimately involved in the process up to this time. And then the commission has a mandate that they have to respond back to the colleges within 30 days from the time of the action taken in commission. So if they take action on the 10th, then we're supposed to be notified by the 10th. That usually means that they'll send out the letter on the 10th, and if it was like last year, we received our letter on Valentine's Day. So I kind of put that range of possible dates there. So that's where we are on the follow-up. Meanwhile, we're still powering away. The Accreditation Steering Committee with Kevin and Deb leading the way are making great progress on a huge, huge project. That is the follow-up or the self-evaluation module. So the Board of Trustees met November 6th. We gave them an accreditation update based on what happened the day before on the 5th and our experience with the visiting team. Vice President Wolf also brought them up to date in terms of where we are in meeting the June 15th requirement for the submittal of our self-evaluation report. Also, we've been given 2 weeks, a span of 2 weeks to decide when we want the visiting team to come. I think it's either the last week of September or the first week of October. We haven't determined which of those that would be a better choice yet, but they've given us a window to put our claim in as to when we want that team of 10 or 12 people to come and visit us for 4 days. Vice President McLaughlin gave the board an update on the strategic planning process. As you know, you're all have been received the draft of the 2014-17 strategic plan, and we're asking you to review it and provide any comments or questions or concerns. That was due back to my office last Friday, so we hope you took some time to take a look at it. It's moving along very nicely. We will be taking that document to College Council and the Planning and Budget Committee, and then we'll be presenting to the board for information at the January board meeting. We updated the board on the Promise program, and many of you have been involved in getting ready to implement and spread the word and sell that program. From the word on the street in the community, it's not going to need a lot of selling. Those who know about it are excited about it. We just have to do a really good job of making sure everybody knows about it. I've been speaking to a lot of families since I have 2 grandchildren that go to Bishop's Peak School in San Luis, so we run into a lot of young families. They're excited about it because this is for them too. Whether they have seniors in high school or whether they have kindergartners, this program's for them, and they're planning about how they're going to prepare for their children and prepare for the cost of higher education. We've had a lot of meetings with community people, with school districts, to lead counselors, the superintendents. Communications are going to be going out to all parents of K-12 districts as well as the private schools in our county in order to make sure that people are getting ready for and prepared to meet the March 2nd deadline to apply for the scholarship program. On the tails of that wonderful gift from the family in Morro Bay, about 2.5 weeks ago, we received word that we received another very nice gift. This one targeting the North County Children's Center facilities, and this was the residual of a family trust from a family in Creston, the Charles and Bertha, forgot the name now, Schultz family, who left, supported a lot of various nonprofits, and then they had the residual split 3 ways between the Atascadero Fire Department, Morro Bay Fire Department, and Cuesta College North County Children's Center. Each of those initial gifts was $1,050,000. And there's more to come because there's some property that needs to be sold, and that income from that property will also be distributed. So we're having a press conference tomorrow with those other entities, so all 3 of the entities will be present at the North County. We're going to do a press conference and a public announcement in celebration of that wonderful, thoughtful gift. At that level, that'll come with a naming opportunity, so it wouldn't surprise me that when we get that new Children's Center built, it may sound like the Schultz building, but that will remain to be seen. But that's these are these amazing things that just happen, and I've told Shannon Hill now not to come in my office unless she has at least a 7-digit answer. So. We also talked about the North County facilities planning, went through very similar to what I just went through with you. That'll be coming back to the board on December 4th for action based on the input they get tonight. And then the board is continuing to discuss the feasibility of a general obligation bond in November. We have hired a consulting firm which provides both the strategist and also the pollster. The initial feasibility survey was conducted in late October. The results of that survey are being compiled and prepared for a report to the board on December 4th as to what this initial contact with the public says about interest in, support for, and willingness to pay for a general obligation bond. It also is testing the level at which people would be willing to support, whether it be $100 million, $200 million, $300 million level bond, and what that would cost in terms of their property tax. And we have to remember that sometimes there's things we want that people aren't willing to pay for, and sometimes there's things that people want to pay for that we don't want. And so it's trying to find that careful intersection between those two positions in order to be able to move forward in the best interest of serving the residents of San Luis Obispo County. So that's part of what this initial survey does, is where are the position points that we can leverage to move forward on. Now, there will be a second survey that will be conducted in late spring. The board will have to make a decision as to whether it's going to place a general obligation bond on the ballot for November, 88 days before the actual election. So that's in early August. I think it's August 8th. So the board has to make a decision prior to that date. So my guess is that we'll probably be asking the board to make a decision at the July board meeting. Okay. So as close to that July date as possible, the pollsters are recommending doing a second survey to see where the pulse is now as it's getting closer to that point. We know there's going to be some other competing entities on the ballot. Tascadero School District is considering another bond. There is another tax initiative that may be going out from Templeton. So we're not sure exactly what's all going to be there, but our job is to create a compelling reason why people should vote and to support it. And if they're not ready to do that, then we're not going to risk going out and have a failed bond issue. All right. And it's also timed in such a way that, remember that the report back from the Accreditation Commission comes in early, mid-February. We want to make sure that second survey follows that so we get the benefit of the anticipated positive press that we're going to receive on the fact that we've now are in full compliance or we're off sanction completely. So that's what I have to date. Noemi's going to be here shortly. She's finishing up interviews, and we'll continue with our forum, but I want to make sure if there are any questions that you have or any of the topics I brought up that you need more explanation about, I'd be glad to entertain that. So did any of you get called on the survey? Actually, I've talked to two people who actually got called, so I know that they were out there calling, so, yeah. Yes, Chris. Pardon? It's about 2,300 students right now. Okay. In the heyday when we were in 2008-9, when we were about 13,900 as a district, they were just under 4,000. You know, so they're depressed just as the rest of the district is depressed in terms of the drop in enrollment. Okay. This is about 23. Is that about right, Gary?
2352.
Right. Okay. All right. So, and the original master plan for the North County campus was to be built out with that at about, was it 5,000, Terry? Yeah, about 5,000 students. So it's still on track, you know, on track to be able to do that. And those four buildings could accommodate good 5,000 students easily. Any other questions? Well, we can now talk among ourselves, or I'm not sure. They could be delayed, and I don't want to keep you if you got things to do, places to go, and people to see. If not, we'll pick that up at our next forum. So, any further ado, we'll call that for the forum for the day. Thank you, North County, for visiting with us, and that's a wrap.